I don't often share the story of why I have a scar on my left eyebrow. Even if you know me personally, you may never have noticed it. One of the first times I went surfing, I became separated from my surfboard. And when I tried to retrieve it, I noticed an unusually large wave heading straight for me. It turns out that my surfboard was underneath the wave, and when it came back up, its bottom fin hit me in the face. I had taken a risk. I had tried something new, and I was rewarded for it with a literal slap to the face. From the perspective of a child, why would you ever want to try anything new again after something like that had just happened to you? I grew up in Salinas, and if you did too, or if you grew up in any of the surrounding area, you may recognize this. If you don't, then this is Dennis the Menace Park, and I, along with many of you, carry the shared experience of growing up there, exploring such a big and confusing world. Now, this train has been sitting in Dennis the Menace Park since 1956, and over the years, children have had the opportunity to climb on it, play on it, etc. In 2013, however, the city decided that the train was too dangerous and constructed this. This is a fence, and I'm showing you this because it's a representation of an idea, an expression of values. Now, the city decided to single out this train because, luckily, there's nothing else in the park that could ever be cause for concern. Now, I'm a very opinionated person, but this isn't a manifesto, and I'm not trying to get anything torn down. At least not this evening. Once again, I'm showing you this because it's a representation of ideas. And a park with a fence in it sends a much different message to a child than a park without a fence. Now, there are several opportunities throughout a person's life during which their capacity for risk-taking can be stunted, and even as children gravitate away from the playground and towards the classroom, we still find ways to discourage the kind of risks that our kids want to take. During his TEDx talk, John Green stated his view of education. I felt like education was just a series of hurdles that had been erected before me that I had to jump over in order to achieve adulthood. That education was not an achievement in itself, but rather a means to other achievements, like getting into a good school or getting a good job, whatever that meant. And what happens when these two objectives, education for the success of the learner and education for the success of their grade point average, come into conflict? Which one of these things has to be more important? Well, from things like grade requirements to get scholarships or go down to sports teams or getting into the college you want, I mean, we do need some way of measuring whether our students understand the material, but we've put a lot of emphasis on the method we've chosen. And so what happens when that method, which we've showered with such obsessive importance, what happens when it could go down? Why even take a risk like that? Why not just take the path of least resistance and not take any chances in that kind of environment? Even if this isn't how you think, we've created an environment where somebody will think like this. And what kind of lesson will that lead them? Will that teach them in life? Now, could it lead them to, I don't know, not tell their loved ones how they really feel or pursue their dreams? Because those can be risks too. In fact, one of the greatest regrets of people on their deathbed include things like, I wish I had the courage to live a life that was true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And that gives way to questions like, what if my friends never remembered me or even wanted to stay in touch with me? I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. What if nobody cared about the way I felt? And what if people stopped liking me if I stopped being what they expected of me? And if we have the courage to take these kinds of risks, then if we don't have the courage to take these kinds of risks, then we'll never know the answers to those kinds of questions. And if we've already decided that not doing these things are regrettable, then why even ask such questions in the first place? One of the first things that comes up when you Google risk-taking is criminal activity such as stealing, vandalism, or trespassing. And let me be clear, I'm not encouraging anyone to do any of those things, but rather to think about the thousands of risks that we encounter every day, some of which might just be worth taking. So why not do something like run for youth governor, or go paragliding, or spend a month in Paris, or join a sports team, or give a TED Talk, or whatever the equivalent for you is? And that's why I think we should take down the barriers that tell us taking chances are just too dangerous and get aboard that train.